Hello, and welcome to the Tansy Knits podcast, my little corner of the internet where I talk about my crafting pursuits. My name is Sarah, and I'll be your host. You can find me on Ravelry as Jane Mumbles and on Instagram as Joni of Loxish, both of which I'll link down in the show notes, which will be in the description box. As we were on holiday break, there are other activities that take up some time other than just crafting. So something that has become a tradition in my family after me trying to make it a thing for several years. This year it's finally stuck, and that is the Globe and Mail Holiday Crossword, which is, as you can see, an epic crossword, which is available to digital subscribers, and they actually print it in the newspaper. We started this the Saturday before Christmas and finished it on Christmas Eve. And the nice thing about this puzzle is that it has clues that sort of range in expertise. So it's really the sort of puzzle that everybody in the family can contribute to. They're not all super hard. They're not all obscure, but there are some. So having a background of, IB English helped for a few things. And the hat trick goes to my mom for getting the last clue, I think it was 360 across, right as me and my dad were in the middle of Googling it. So I'll put a link to that holiday crossword if anybody feels like puzzling. It is a Canadian newspaper, but the clues are not exclusively Canadian related. So I think it would be something that a lot of people would enjoy. Other than that, I have also been doing non-knitting crafting. Especially, declaring that I'm cruising along on something like my Parisian dream sweater and that I'll maybe have it finished, of course, made me not want to work on it immediately and start something different. Something that I started a couple years ago was making felt ornaments. I will have included some footage of some of the ornaments that I've made in the past. I started making these, I think about 2 years ago at Christmas time. We sort of have had a tradition in my family of going away at Christmas time and going to Hawaii, somewhere nice and warm, and go to the beach. And something that's come up in recent years is me doing different kinds of crafting things, like hand stitching based crafts, so sort of like mini quilts and that sort of thing. So it's not far. My holiday crafting kind of, ranges from other kinds of handicrafts. And a couple years ago, I can't remember, I think I saw on somebody's Vlogmas some handmade felt ornaments, and I fell in love with them, and so then I started looking for patterns, and I remembered these ornaments are from patterns by Alicia Paulson. This is the Ice Skating Afternoon set, which I can show you a picture of. There's the cover picture there. I still have the hot cocoa to do, but as you can see, I've done the other ones. And I'm making a set for me and I'm making a set for my mom. And she didn't particularly care for that green dress on the gingerbread girl, so you can see that I've changed it to a pink. And I think otherwise the colors are the same. And I was able to find at a Canadian seller the same brand of felt. And you can see there's little bits of embroidery detail that you put on first, and then you stitch all the pieces by hand into position and then do an outline and stuff it as you go. And they're not, they take a bit of time, but they're much faster than knitting something, and they're really quite cute and special, so I really enjoy them. And yeah, the skate had to have a it has a pom-pom in the pattern, and that was the big selling point. I kept hearing from my mom, when are you going to work on the skate? When am I going to get the skate? And so that was obviously, after finishing the Gingerbread Girls, that was the next one to have to happen. The one modification that I did was after finishing the first skate, I noticed that the blade itself was a little bit like wobbly, and it was, it doesn't have you stuff it with anything. It's just supposed to be stitched closed, but I found that it didn't really stay put out. So my dad got some plastic off of some packaging of some kind, like that sort of clear plastic or like template plastic would work, and he traced a little piece and put it in. So we put it into both skates, and that seems to work pretty well. I still have the hot cocoa to do, which I have the pieces ready to go. I just have to embroider and put them together. The rest of it. The tracing and cutting out takes a little bit of time, so it's kind of like they're half finished at this stage. Okay, the next thing that I finished, which is actual knitting that I did, is the gingerbread socks that I was working on for my mom. Her feet are a little bit larger than mine, and these are smaller blockers than she would need for her feet, which is why they're a little baggy. And she's worn them because it's a nice thing in my family when I make them socks. They want to wear them right away, which I think is a good thing. And yeah, I don't mind that. So you probably will not see fresh socks when I finish them. Sorry about that. If that bothers you, that's too bad. So these are gingerbread house socks using the Stranded Dye Works holiday color for this year, which is Gingerbread House, spelled Haus, and then a coordinating mini that she dyed to go with. Now, I didn't quite have enough of the mini skein to do 2 full heels, so you will notice there's a little bit of a 2-tone heel happening here. I grabbed a different red commercial sock yarn that was, I think it's a pretty good match. And it's on the bottom of the heel, so I was able to get, like, right when I was turning the heel for the color change, so it's not so jarring. And yeah, like, they're going to be on the bottom of her foot, so you're not really going to notice that. Okay, so that's it for finished things. I actually made some notes today, so we can be maybe a little bit more organized. I'm still figuring out how things work. Oh, one of the things that we've been working on that we got as sort of a family Christmas present this year is the epic Hogwarts Castle Lego set. It's a 6,000 piece set, comes in a giant box, and we are almost done. We are on the last bag of the Lego set.
Are you filming?
Yeah, go.
Well, Russell told us 2 years ago he was just gonna, I thought it was a hip surgery, but he was just gonna get it done. That was 2 years ago. Well, I think he did get that done.
Shaboom.
Shaboom. And one of the things that we did was putting a Lego set together. There's a book that you follow, and then you have to do all the pieces. And it's really frustrating to try and do as a group activity because there's one book. and like one set of instructions that you're following at a time. So after working about 5 minutes with my dad on this, I quickly figured out that there are 4 different books of instructions for this set because it is epic. And I found a place in like at the beginning of the 3rd book is when you start building a different part of the castle with a different foundation. So I got him started on that so that he could have his workstation and I would have my workstation and we wouldn't bug each other. And we had family over on Christmas Day is when we sort of broke open the set and started getting going on this Lego kit. And then me and my dad worked on it nearly all of Boxing Day. And then about halfway through the next day, and then my cousins came over to make some fudge with my mom, and both of my cousins worked on it, and then one of them basically finished the first section, which is the Great Hall and the tower, and the final bit is Dumbledore's office at the top of the main tower there. And yeah, so that's done. And she got to build the dragon. I'm a little bit jealous she got to build the dragon, but that's okay. It's about having fun together, right? So we're on the last bag of the last part of the second half of the castle, and then it'll be done. And then we have to figure out a place to keep it because it's kind of a big thing. We'll figure that out another day. And I know J.K. Rowling has said some stuff recently that is transphobic and not great, but this was a Christmas present that my family had already purchased for ourselves, and rather than, poo-poo it immediately for being problematic, we decided to keep it and build it anyway. Sort of last year I got a fringe field bag as a Christmas present, and then immediately the conversations about diversity and inclusion happened in our community, and that became a problematic bag, but it's a Christmas present that I had wanted, that I had asked for. It was quite expensive, so because it was a gift from my family, I didn't want to just reject it out hand. And same with this thing. Like, yes, it's a complicated situation, and I will definitely think twice about supporting licensed products from the Harry Potter's Wizarding World in the future. But for right now, we have this castle and it's built, and we had a good time doing it. The next thing that I'm working on is, let me see my notes here, my Parisian Dreams. I have actually picked it up and started working on it, and then realized that I had made a mistake. When I went to go divide the back portion for the neck shaping, I ended up with improper stitch counts, and then I realized that I had cast on a different size from what I had circled in the pattern, and so I was sort of, for the first half of the sweater, I was following one set of directions, and then I sort of changed partway through. I think what happened was I didn't circle all the numbers all the way through that I needed when I knew what size I was making, and then later I just sort of guessed at what size I was making. Always a good thing to do. And so then circled a different size and came out with different numbers. So, and I didn't realize that I had done all the neck shaping on the front. So I have in the middle of going back and redoing the back shaping. I'm going to continue with the size that I made, which is a little bit smaller than what I thought I was making, but I have measured it, and it looks like it's going to block out to be larger than, like, my gauge is a little bit larger than what is written in the pattern for these sizes, so I'm going to go with what I had started with initially. So I have all the neck shaping done in the back, and I just have to go and fix it in the front. And I didn't really discuss last time, so I have made this shorter It is going to be a little bit cropped. I have a short torso, and I'm shorter than Mina, probably by quite a bit. And if I wear a long sweater, it just makes me look like I have no legs. So I'm going for more of a cropped length. I've followed the length of a sweater that, a store-bought sweater that I've worn solidly for like at least a year, which I am happy with the length of. So it's going to be similar length. And so what I did to shorten it was instead of doing 3 repeats of the cable pattern, I've done 2. And then I've jumped into the finishing chart after separating for the sleeves. So it'll be a little bit more of a boxy shape on me, which I think will be cute. So that's that one. And similarly, I haven't really touched it this week, but I'm just going to show you to explain how I'm constructing this a little differently. This is I wrote the name down this time, so I can tell it to you. It is the number 10 Valldal damekofte by Sandnes Design. Sandnes, not, what did I say, Rama last time? So because I'm working with stash yarn that I've had for some time, and I'm not sure that I have quite the yardage that I need for this pattern, but I'm also going to make it a little bit shorter again, a little bit more of a boxy shape. But what I've done is, rather than start with the ribbing, because I'm not sure how much of this oatmeal yarn that I'm going to have, for ribbing, that might need to be a contrast color, I've just done a provisional cast on. And I like a crochet provisional cast on. That's my preferred method of casting on provisionally. And so I'm just started directly with the body. And I also thought to bring my Norwegian knitting thimble. So from the instructions that I shared last time, I hold it on my finger like this, which actually works quite nicely. I'm quite happy with how that works. So I look forward to going back to that, but I think I might, well, again, I shouldn't promise things but I'm going to at least fix the neck shaping, and we'll see if I keep it feeling like continuing to work on the Parisian dreams or not. Only time will tell. I'm going to take a little tea break. This is a very cool mug that I sort of bought myself for Christmas from the Alberta Craft Council. I don't remember the artist's name offhand, but I'll put it in the show notes. I like a big mug, and I thought this was really cute. I'm a tea drinker, not a coffee drinker. Many years ago, when I had my first office job, I used to drink coffee, and I used to bring French press coffee, and either the coffee was rather strong. I found sitting at a desk, it just kind of made me a little jittery. So I switched to tea, and I have stuck with tea this whole time. I can be a little bit of a bear first thing in the morning, but that's, yeah. Tea makes things better. Okay. And I like a big mug of tea. The last thing that I'm working on is I did actually do a Christmas Eve cast on, and I maybe cheated a little bit and actually cast on the 23rd because I wasn't sure that I was gonna have time on the 24th. I don't know. I don't like rules. When it comes to crafting, I don't like too many rules. So these, I'm already just having picked up the stitches off of the heel flap and gusset. These are the vanilla latte pattern, which I have made many times. And this is mustache yarn, perfect self-striping sock in the Bumbles Bounce colorway. I bought this last year. I bought some, this and another Christmas color to make some socks for my mom. Yeah. I really like how these are turning out. I think they'll be really nice Christmas socks. And I might make some Rose City rollers or something out of the leftovers. We'll see. So that's already all of my knitting. Oh. I suppose I should needle sizes. Why? So my, I didn't say needle sizes for like anything. Okay. Quick recap. These I knit on 2.25. Well, they were marked 2 millimeter, but I feel like they're more of a 2.25 size of the Carbon's double points. Okay, and then the Parisian Dreams, I'm working on a 3.25 millimeter or US 3 Leica circular. What's the next one? This one, the damekofte, is using a needle from my Leica interchangeable set, which was a Christmas present that I got last year from my family. And they are 3.75 millimeter. So that's a US size. Let's say 5, US 5. Yes, I'm cheating and looking on the needle. No, I don't know the sizes in US sizes. I'm a millimeters person. And then, oh, these ones aren't going to say it. These are some Prim DPNs that I've had for a while, and they're 2 millimeter, which is that a US 0? I think a US 0. If that's wrong, I'll correct myself in like a thingy. Okay, so that's all my knitting. And I just started a new book. I'm just in the prologue or the preface of this book. I think it's pronounced Craeft. I do not speak Old English, and it's got one of those funny letters. So far it's interesting. It's like examining how craft has the idea of craft has changed over time, and like the meaning of the word has evolved, and like with what he talks about in the preface is with increased industrialization and mechanization of labor, we've developed this idea of like handwork is different from machine production. And so he sort of examines where that distinction kind of developed. That's what I've got so far. It's written by this guy who's an archaeologist who was involved in a number of BBC series trying to recreate what a 17th century like farming techniques. And so I guess they did a series of different a few different series of different time periods and what farming would look like at that time. Yeah, so it's interesting. I got the recommendation for this from M to the Third's Slack channel. There was a bit of a conversation about books, and a little book list started. So in preparation for being off for the holidays, I got out a giant stack of books, like I like to do from time to time. And so I got out basically every book that had been mentioned that was craft related, and some other ones that I had on my for later shelf that my library has. Oh, I suppose I should have also mentioned, I guess I could have started with this, but I didn't, so we're getting it now. I am wearing some me-mades. This is, I guess, a me-made outfit minus my underpants, undergarments, and leggings. I did make this dress. This is a Cashmerette pattern. I'll put it on the screen because I don't recall the pattern name. I was going to look it up and then I forgot about it. Out of some fabric that I got from fabric.com. It's got a neat, like, sort of heathered effect. My sewing goes in, like, fits and spurts. At the moment, I don't really have a setup sewing space, so I end up taking over my parents' dining room table here and again, and then end up making batch sewing, like 2 to 3 garments for myself or for my mom. And this often happens like before we go traveling somewhere. So I made some in the summer. I get this feeling every once in a while, like, that I don't have enough clothes, or like, it's usually like that I don't have enough fun, like, hot weather clothes to wear. So I end up making like a couple sundresses. I made this one, and I made another one out of a floral last summer before we went off to Mexico. My mom's retired and my dad is sort of works. It kind of ends up being works part-ish time because he ends up taking some big vacations here and there. And one of the things they've done for the past, I think, 5 years now is they take a month off and go to Mexico. And I've been very fortunate that for the past few years, my work situation has allowed me to also go to Mexico. And because I'm going to school online, I can do that there as well as I can do it here for the most part. So I get to go to Mexico too, which is amazing. And so, yeah, before we went last year, I made a few dresses for myself. And I was lucky. For Christmas this year, my mom asked me what I would want. And so that's kind of why I started this podcast. I got a little bit of podcasting equipment, like a little tripod adapter to hold my phone and a little microphone. So hopefully the sound's pretty good. And then she bought me some beautiful linens from England, which I'll show you when I make them into something. So I will have another little bout of sewing probably before the next semester starts. And this sweater is also me made. This is, again, better preparation. Almost good preparation. We got somewhat better. I'm just going to look it up on Ravelry now because I have it open in my browser here. This is a Isolde pattern. This is the Stockbridge cardigan. Stockbridge by Isolde, and it is using Holst Coast. In the colorway Fig, which is this nice purple color. I have 2 cardigans that I have worn to death that are store-bought. That one's purple and one's gray. So I had bought some Holst to try because they were, I think, at a Black Friday sale a couple years ago. I wanted to try the Coast because I can find a 100% wool sweater to be quite warm. So I wanted to try this as a 50% wool, 50% cotton. So it kind of has this heathered texture to it. And I ended up having to adapt this pattern a bit to match my gauge because the Coast is quite a fine wool. I ended up knitting it on a 2.5 millimeter with the ribbing done in 2.25. And I did tubular bind offs and tubular cast-ons. Because when I'm doing 1x1 ribbing, I really like the look of that. Trying to think of whose tutorial do I use for that. If I could think to find it, I will include it in the show notes. Yeah, I like a good tubular bind off, and there's a method that I use that's basically like a long tail cast on with a couple of setup rows, and then you're good to go. And I really like that. Anything else I can think about the sweater? Yeah, so this was a reading and knitting project. Did I do this last year? And now I can't see it. Yeah. Started in 2018. Okay. July of 2018, and then finished in March. So last year, when we were in Mexico and I was reading articles, I think that's where I started to try knitting and reading. And yeah, because it's long swaths of stockinette, particularly on the body. I was knitting and reading with this project, and it worked quite nicely. So I have another sweaters quantity of Holst that I might take to make another cardigan, because I really like this cardigan. It's a really great weight. I might next time make the arms a little bit longer, but I mean, sometimes I push my sleeves up anyway, so it hasn't been too bothersome. But they could be maybe an inch longer would be nice. And yeah, so okay, that's about all I have to talk about. I wanted to thank everybody who took a chance and watched my first video, despite me mentioning that it was 40 minutes long. Yes. We're clocking in about 30 minutes right now, so we're doing good. And wanted to thank my family who came over on Christmas. My cousins were very supportive, and everybody subscribed to my YouTube channel, which I was not expecting, and is totally nice. Yeah, that was a nice surprise. And yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to stick to a weekly schedule. We'll see how it goes. I don't want to apply too many rules to what I'm doing here, just because then it ends up being too much of a thing, and then I don't feel like doing it, and yeah, so we're playing it low key. How's that sound? And I might get a little bit more elaborate as I see fit. We'll play it by ear. I wanted to, so thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for subscribing if you did. If you didn't, if it's not your cup of tea, that's fine too. Thanks for checking me out. And yeah, I'd love to hear about what has your holiday crafting looked like? For those of you who have had a break. Did you do a Christmas Eve cast on, or other solstice cast on, or something like that? Are you planning a New Year's cast on? That could be interesting too. Yeah, let me know. Yeah, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.